In just 4 minutes and 17 seconds, the nation's top law enforcement officer would utter 3 words that would destroy his career. I don't know. FBI Director Cash Patel hadn't expected the manila folder. He hadn't expected the cameras to catch his face drain of color. And he certainly hadn't expected Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren to walk in armed with evidence from Bloomberg, the New York Times, and 3 FBI whistleblowers. What had this veteran prosecutor found in Jeffrey Epstein's files that made the FBI's most powerful man freeze like a deer in headlights? The night before the hearing, Patel was confident, too confident. Inside his office at FBI headquarters, he had practiced his answers until midnight. His team had prepped him for questions on crime rates, terrorism threats, even Hunter Biden's laptop. Yet somehow they'd completely overlooked the Epstein angle. "It's going to be routine," Deputy Director Nicole Parker had assured him. "The Judiciary Committee loves to grandstand, but they never have the goods." They were wrong. Meanwhile, Zoe Lofgren was still working past 2 a.m., Her chief of staff had spent weeks chasing leads from ex-FBI agents, Justice Department attorneys, and congressional aides. The Bloomberg report had cracked the dam, and the New York Times follow-up confirmed it. But Lofgren wanted hard proof. "We need to be surgical," she told her team. "Just the facts. Let him hang himself with his own words." The Rayburn House office building buzzed with tension that gray February morning. Room 241 had seen its share of powerful witnesses, but today felt different. The press gallery overflowed, CNN, Fox News, and independent reporters all sensing blood in the water. Outside, protesters shouted conflicting chants about FBI transparency and Epstein justice. At exactly 9:07 a.m., the heavy oak doors swung open. Cash Patel entered, every inch the career prosecutor turned FBI chief. His badge glinted under the fluorescent lights, dark suit, red tie, briefcase in hand. Behind him followed a line of FBI attorneys, faces composed but uneasy. Patel's rise had been both meteoric and divisive, from Miami public defender to FBI director in just 2 decades. His loyalty to Trump during the Russia investigation made him a hero to some, a partisan loyalist to others. His confirmation squeaked through 51 to 49. Now, as he settled into the witness chair, he carried the burden of leading an agency desperate to regain trust. The FBI had been battered by politics, morale was low, and the Epstein scandal remained an open wound. Mysterious death, sealed files, powerful names. Every redaction fueled more suspicion. Still, as Patel arranged his papers and filled his water glass, he had no idea that scandal was about to find him anyway. Something was off. His usually confident stride seemed stiffer, his jaw tighter. Those who knew him best noticed his white-knuckled grip on the briefcase handle. Washington's rumor mill had been buzzing for weeks. Georgetown dinners, quiet drinks at the Hay Adams, whispers that something big was coming, something that could rock the bureau to its core. The cameras zoomed in as Patel adjusted his papers, the FBI seal gleaming on his lapel. It looked like just another hearing, but behind the scenes, political engines were already spinning. Reporters texted sources, Democratic leaders had been briefed, and Republican aides scrambled for talking points that didn't exist yet. Except Zoe Lofgren had her own plan. Sitting 3 seats down from the chairman, she had a thick manila folder resting in front of her. At 76, the Stanford-trained former prosecutor had faced down CEOs, public officials, and corrupt prosecutors, but today would be different. Today she had receipts. Her colleagues knew her rule: never ask a question you don't already know the answer to. During Trump's impeachment, she had been methodical and relentless. She didn't grandstand. She simply asked and waited. That folder contained far more than press clippings, FBI personnel files, Justice Department memos, and whistleblower affidavits not yet public. The morning began predictably. Chairman Jim Jordan opened with his usual partisan fire, defending the FBI and attacking Democratic witch hunts. Republicans threw softball questions about counterterrorism and border issues. Patel answered with the calm precision of a seasoned official. The FBI remains committed to protecting the American people from all threats, foreign and domestic, he said, voice steady with that faint Queen's accent from his working-class roots. His parents had been proud when he became a prosecutor and ecstatic when he rose to director. They had no idea their son was about to face the greatest humiliation of his career. Lofgren watched quietly. She noticed how Patel grew wordier when uncomfortable, how his hand brushed his FBI pin whenever he needed time, how his breathing quickened when questions drifted off script. Other Democrats yielded time to her. Everyone knew what was coming. This wasn't about politics. It was about whether the FBI director could tell the truth about one of the most sensitive investigations in U.S. history. At 10:43 a.m., her moment arrived. "Thank you. Mr. Chairman," she began, voice sharp and deliberate. "Director Patel, I'd like to talk about transparency, specifically your handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Cameras zoomed closer. Patel's face stayed neutral, but his shoulders tightened. "Congresswoman, we've been transparent," he began. "Have you?" Lofgren interrupted, opening the manila folder. "Because we're hearing reports of actions that suggest otherwise, actions involving diverted FBI resources." She held up the first document, Bloomberg letterhead visible to every camera. "For example," she continued, "a whistleblower reported that you were pressured by the Attorney General to assign 1,000 agents to work around the clock, reviewing roughly 100,000 Epstein-related records, specifically to remove President Trump's name." The room fell silent. 1,000 agents, 24-hour shifts, 100,000 records. Patel's jaw remained steady, but his left eye twitched. "Congresswoman, I'd need to see," Bloomberg reported. She cut in, raising the page, "that you directed agents from New York and Washington to assist FOIA staff in Winchester and another facility nearby. Those reviewing the Epstein files found multiple references to Trump and other high-profile figures, and those names were blacked out." She paused, letting the accusation hang. Then she delivered the knockout. "The New York Times reports, and I quote, Justice Department officials diverted hundreds of FBI employees and prosecutors from their regular duties to review the Epstein files at least 4 times, including once to flag any mentions of Mr. Trump and other prominent individuals." Patel's water glass sat untouched. His folded hands trembled slightly. "Those details," Lofgren said, "come from 3 former FBI and DOJ officials who spoke on condition of anonymity due to fear of retaliation. After the review, the files went to DOJ lawyers for a second round of redactions, again with instructions to flag any mention of Mr. Trump or other celebrities." The room was silent. Even the background whispers had stopped. "Now I have 3 questions, Director Patel," she said firmly. "First, how many times did President Trump's name appear in the Epstein files? More than 100? More than 1,000? Patel's mouth opened, then closed. For a fleeting moment, the most powerful law enforcement official in the country looked utterly frozen. "Second," she continued, "were the agents pulled from their assignments, some working criminal and child trafficking cases to handle these redactions?" She let that sink in, then added the third blow. "And finally, is the reported number of agents diverted for this task accurate?" 3 questions, 3 chances for Patel to explain, clarify, and defend the Bureau's actions. Instead, what came out of his mouth would become the most damaging soundbite of his career. He didn't address the allegations. Not directly. Lofgren's eyebrows lifted slightly. "No? What?" Patel stammered. "You asked if it was accurate," he said flatly. "I said it wasn't." "So you're saying none of this happened?" Another pause, another flicker of unease. "No, I'm saying it was inaccurate." The difference was meaningless, and everyone in the room knew it. Lofgren pressed forward like a prosecutor who smelled blood. "Okay. How many times did President Trump's name appear in the Epstein files? More than 100? More than 1,000? And then came the moment that would define Patel's tenure, the one that would replay endlessly on cable news, circulate across social media, and be dissected by every legal analyst in America. No, Lofgren said, cutting him off. That's not what I asked. How many times did the president's name appear? Patel glanced down at his notes, looked back up, hesitated, and then uttered the 3 words that would end his career. I don't know. The gasp that followed was audible. Reporters' fingers flew across keyboards. Cameras zoomed in, recording every flicker of disbelief on the face of the nation's top law enforcement officer who had just admitted ignorance of one of the most sensitive investigations in FBI history. It's your testimony that you don't know the answer? Lofgren asked, her tone echoing the disbelief felt across the room. The number of times? No, Patel replied quietly. 3 whistleblowers. 2 major news investigations, 1,000 agents on 24-hour shifts, 100,000 records reviewed. And the FBI director didn't know how many times the former president's name appeared. Lofgren wasn't finished. Can you tell us how many agents were reassigned to this task and what cases they were pulled from? Patel tried to recover, leaning on bureaucratic phrasing. Well, when you say diverted, it implies agents were taken away from their duties. But agents at the FBI are versatile. They often do double and triple duty. Because of the public interest, we reallocated resources to meet those expectations. Classic deflection. Don't answer the question. Question the premise. So do you want us to review the material and give it to you or not? He added, turning the challenge back toward her. But Lofgren didn't flinch. She'd faced too many evasive witnesses to be thrown off. So it's your testimony that no one was diverted from criminal work? That this was a top priority, to search the Epstein files for Mr. Trump's name. Is that correct? That's the highest priority for the FBI, Patel replied. His answer exposed everything. Rather than deny that protecting Trump's name had become the Bureau's priority, he buried himself deeper in vague language. One of the remarkable things about FBI leadership, he continued, is that we decide where to send resources and how to meet mission needs. That's what happened here. Translation, yes, agents were pulled to scrub Trump's name, and yes, it was treated as a priority. Lofgren's closing words became the hearing's most quoted moment. It's shocking to me, she said evenly, that the FBI considers erasing Mr. Trump's name from the Epstein files a high priority when we're facing violent crime, national security threats, terrorism, even murders like the one involving Mr. Kirk. It's shocking that this is what you call a priority. The word shocking hung in the air, an indictment not only of Patel, but of the Bureau's credibility itself. Patel sat in silence. His talking points were useless against the documents before him. The man who had built his reputation on exposing corruption was now seen as enabling it. The fallout was immediate. Twitter erupted. Epstein cover-up and Patel resigns. Trended within minutes. Fox News broke into regular programming to analyze the exchange. CNN's legal analysts called it the most damaging FBI testimony since James Comey. Inside the Bureau, the impact was even worse. Agents across the country watched the hearing in break rooms and conference rooms, stunned. Many had joined the FBI out of faith in justice and accountability. Watching their director admit ignorance about such a crucial case felt humiliating. Special Agent Jennifer Matthews, a 15-year veteran in New York, later told investigators, "We couldn't believe what we were hearing." Her office, the same one that had originally worked the Epstein case, sacrificing weekends and holidays, had seen its resources diverted to protect a politician's image. The FBI Agents Association, usually hesitant to challenge leadership, released a rare statement within hours. The association is deeply concerned by any indication that investigative priorities were influenced by political considerations. Our agents deserve leadership that puts victims and justice first. Behind closed doors, the situation worsened. By afternoon, 3 more whistleblowers had reached out to congressional offices with additional evidence. Internal emails showed agents had been pulled from active criminal cases, including a child exploitation case in Los Angeles and a terrorism probe in Detroit, to work on Epstein file redactions. That evening, DOJ Inspector General Michael Horowitz announced an investigation. The American people deserve to know whether law enforcement resources were used appropriately and without political influence, his statement read. Then came the leaks. Anonymous officials told reporters that Attorney General Merrick Garland had personally approved the reallocation, that White House staff had quietly inquired about the Epstein files, and that DOJ career prosecutors had objected only to be overruled. At the White House press briefing, the spokesperson faced a barrage of questions. Asked whether the president had knowledge of the review, she gave the standard Washington reply: "The White House does not interfere with ongoing law enforcement matters." Pressed for clarification, she abruptly ended the briefing. On Capitol Hill, former allies turned away. Senator Lindsey Graham, normally a staunch Trump defender, called Patel's answers troubling. Ted Cruz demanded a Senate inquiry. Even Chairman Jim Jordan, who had praised Patel hours earlier, refused comment in the Capitol. Hallway, conservative media fractured. Tucker. Carlson questioned whether Patel could remain in office. Sean Hannity defended his broader record, but called the testimony deeply disappointing. The Wall Street Journal editorial board wrote that Americans deserve an FBI director who knows the facts about major investigations. Most striking was Trump's silence. The man who had elevated Patel, once rumored for CIA director, said nothing. No posts, no statements, no defense. By late afternoon, Patel left the Rayburn building visibly shaken. Reporters shouted questions he didn't answer. His security detail guided him to a black SUV where Deputy Director Parker waited, tablet in hand. "How bad is it?" he asked as they pulled away. Parker didn't sugarcoat it. "Sir, it's pretty bad." The ride to FBI headquarters was silent. Both knew they were witnessing the beginning of the end, not just for Patel's career, but perhaps for the Bureau's already fragile reputation. 3 words: I don't know. In Washington, where knowledge is power and ignorance is fatal, Cash Patel had just committed career suicide on live television. And Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren, armed with solid reporting and sharper questions, had been the executioner. Sometimes, truth doesn't need theatrics or drama. Sometimes it only requires someone brave enough to ask the right questions and patient enough to wait for the wrong answers. That February morning in room 241, that's exactly what happened. And democracy was stronger for it. The Epstein files remain sealed. The cover-up endures. But thanks to one congresswoman's preparation and one director's disastrous honesty, the American people finally knew the truth. Their FBI had spent enormous resources protecting a former president's reputation instead of pursuing justice for victims. And in the end, that truth was worth more than all the redacted pages in Jeffrey Epstein's files.